From the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation, Outdoor Oklahoma.
What kinds of snakes do we have here in Oklahoma?
We have rattlesnakes, we have poisonous snakes, we have all sorts of snakes.
Really? Do you know any other kind of snake besides rattlesnake?
I know poisonous snakes.
Yes? Is a rattlesnake poisonous? Okay.
Very, very poisonous.
What would you do if there was a rattlesnake right here in front of you?
Rattlesnake?
What would you do if there was a rattlesnake right here in front of you?
I'd take a stick and beat it up.
Why would you do that?
Why? Rattlesnakes don't even appreciate people. All they do is just pick it up. Sometimes they just pick it up and rattle all the time and try.
Of course we have poisonous snakes in Oklahoma, especially rattlesnakes, but they're at the zoo.
I'm at the Oklahoma City Zoo right now, and actually, technically, she is right. There are rattlesnakes here. In fact, I'm standing in front of one right now. And this fella here just happens to be a timber rattlesnake. It's one of many that are on display at the zoo's herpetarium building. But I'm sure, as you know, the zoo is not the only place you can run onto a snake here in Oklahoma. We happen to be home to 46 different species of snakes, 7 of which happen to be venomous. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about. And that's what today's show is all about, Oklahoma's poisonous snakes. You know, many people have an unnecessary fear of snakes. And today we hope to maybe educate you on some of the most feared and misunderstood snakes here in Oklahoma, those known as pit vipers.
There are 4 kinds of venomous snakes in the United States: the coral snake, the cottonmouth, the copperhead, and the rattlesnake. Oklahoma has 3 of them: the cottonmouth, the copperhead, and 5 species of rattlesnakes. Known as pit vipers, these snakes have heat-sensitive pits between their eyes and nostrils that can recognize warm-blooded prey. Non-venomous snakes do not have this pit, and this is one way to distinguish the two apart. But there's also another easy way. Take a look at their eyes. Venomous snakes have an elliptical or cat-like eye. Non-venomous snakes have round pupils. Sometimes it's hard to distinguish the two, but if there is any doubt, the best thing to do is just leave it alone. Now let's take a closer look at Oklahoma's poisonous snakes. The cottonmouth, also known as the water moccasin, can be most often found near a permanent body of water. Found in the eastern and southern half of Oklahoma, the cottonmouth can easily be recognized by its mouth's cotton-white interior. When provoked, the cottonmouth will open its mouth wide as a threat gesture. Not only can this snake strike while floating on top of the water, but it can also deliver a poisonous strike while submerged under the water's surface. Several harmless water snakes are often mistaken for a water moccasin, but the best way to differentiate the two is to observe the snake's behavior in the water. A cottonmouth will swim with much of its body above the water with its head raised up, almost parallel to the surface. A water snake's body will be submerged with its head barely out of the water. The copperhead is a relatively heavy-bodied snake of moderate length and can be found in the eastern 2/3 of Oklahoma. Poisonous to man, the copperhead is nocturnal, relatively non-aggressive, and will not strike unless cornered. But be very careful. Because of their coloring, copperheads blend into their environment extremely well. They rely heavily on their concealing coloration to protect themselves. Coiled motionless over a bed of dead leaves, its color pattern matches almost precisely the multi-hued browns of the forest floor, making it extremely difficult to detect. Like other pit vipers, the copperhead is venomous. Fatalities from copperheads are rare due to their short fangs, their modest supply of venom, and the low toxicity of the venom. The western diamondback rattlesnake can be found in arid regions, rocky outcrops, and bluffs. It gets its name from the row of dark diamond markings down the middle of its back, each one edged with white. But these markings are not always noticeable because of small light and dark specks that liberally cover the snake's body, giving it a dusty appearance. The diamondback is most easily recognized by its black and white banded tail, resembling that of a raccoon. Because of its tail, the diamondback is often referred to as the coon-tail rattler. Known as Oklahoma's largest rattlesnake, it has been described as temperamental, fearless, and high-strung. But like all other individuals of this species, they are defensive by nature, and if provoked, they will defend themselves. Because of its striking distance, long fangs, and large venom capacity, not to mention its size, there's no wonder why the western diamondback is intimidating. The prairie rattlesnake can be found in western Oklahoma around rocky outcrops or canyons, open grasslands, and prairie dog towns. The prairie rattlesnake has well-defined medium brown blotches that extend along the back of its greenish-brown or yellow body. An adult can range from 34 to 45 inches long and makes its claim as the most toxic venomous snake in Oklahoma. Its venom is estimated to be 2 to 2.5 times more toxic than that of the western diamondback rattler, but it has only 1/9 the venom capacity of the diamondback. The western Massasauga can be found in central and western Oklahoma with the exception of the Panhandle. It's also known as the sand rattler, and the Massasauga can be found near hillsides, prairies, and grasslands. It's most recognizable by its longitudinal row of dark brown or blackish ovals down the length of its back, with 3 more rows of lighter alternating blotches on the side. It also has 9 large scales forming an oval between its eyes. The Massasauga is endowed with a relatively toxic venom believed to contain some neurotoxic components, but its bite rarely causes death in humans because of its short fangs and its low venom supply. The timber rattlesnake is a large snake that has dark crossbands along its body, and its triangular head lacks distinct markings. It can be found near rocky hillsides and in swamp-like wetlands throughout the eastern half of Oklahoma. Because of the black, velvety appearance of the tail, this species is commonly referred to as a velvet tail. The timber rattlesnake bite can be very dangerous, but considering the rough environment it inhabits, most humans don't encounter this snake too often. The subspecies of the timber rattlesnake, the canebrake rattlesnake, was once recognized in some regions, but because of their similarities, the canebrake has been grouped with the timber as a monotypic species in most circles. The western pygmy rattlesnake can be found in central and southeast Oklahoma. The pygmy has small, wide dorsal blotches and 1 or 2 rows of spots on its side. In most individuals, a reddish-orange stripe extends down the midline of the back. An adult pygmy is usually 15 to 20 inches long and has a small rattle found at the end of a relatively long, slender tail. This rattle is very hard to hear and is equally hard to see. Although its venom is poisonous to man, the western pygmy rattlesnake is responsible for few human snake bites.
We should all be able to recognize those at a glance. Anglers or hunters going into the field, bird watchers, mushroom collectors, makes no difference. We should be able to recognize those, because if we can recognize those dangerous snakes, this gives us confidence and it puts us in control. If we can't, we're lost.
Owner of Bob Jenni's Nature Center in Edmond, he's most recognized as Oklahoma's snake expert. Bob has shared his knowledge to thousands of people throughout Oklahoma, and he took the time to do the same for us.
The snakes, when we look at the snakes, we're looking at predator animals, and predator animals contribute measurably to the health and welfare of the food animal species that they take, They contribute measurably to our health and welfare. They take the easy ones first. As an example, let's say a diamondback rattlesnake. Its favorite food is the wood rat. It takes the easy one first. Why would one wood rat be easier than another? Something's wrong. When we find out what's wrong, we find out that they're either diseased or they're heavily parasitized. When we look at the diseases carried by the parasite, when we look at the diseases carried by the wood rats themselves, we're looking at more than a half a dozen terminal diseases as far as we're concerned. The wood rat also benefits because it lessens the danger of endemic disease within the wood rat population.
You know, as I mentioned earlier, Oklahoma is home to 7 different species of poisonous snakes. And some of those snakes that we encounter in the wild, though, are mistaken as poisonous. Jim, what do we have here?
This is a common bull snake. It's found throughout Oklahoma, and it's found in areas where there are western diamondback rattlesnakes. And because of the pattern, and because sometimes it can hiss, people mistake that for a rattlesnake rattle.
You know, Jim, a lot of folks that haven't ever handled a snake say that they look slimy or wet. Is that true, really, though?
No, snakes are really dry. What they have is clean scales that gives them an iridescent appearance.
Okay.
And so when light hits them, it appears to be shiny and maybe wet, but they're really quite dry.
Okay. You know, I know this fella's not going to hurt me, but it is actually true that most snakes in Oklahoma, especially our poisonous snakes, are not aggressive by nature. However, what would happen if you actually got bitten? Have you ever stopped to wonder what you would actually need to do?
The Oklahoma Poison Control Center last year handled 72 snake bite cases. The majority of those were the copperhead bites. The 3 snakes that we're worried about in the state of Oklahoma are the copperhead, the cottonmouth, and the rattlesnake. The rattlesnakes being the most problematic, and then your western diamondback rattlesnake being the big daddy of them all. First and foremost, the rule with all emergencies is don't panic. We have good antivenom and people out there available to assist you in your problem. The main thing is you're not going to get bit by a snake if you can avoid that snake. So if you suspect a snake is nearby or you see a snake, head the opposite direction. Snakes are usually pretty accurate in their bites up to about 1/3 of their body distance, and they really start becoming inaccurate after a couple of feet. So if we can get you to avoid the snake right off the bat, we're in good shape. Secondly, somebody's been bit by the snake. Now what do? We don't cut it open, we don't lacerate the site and suck it out. If somebody goes out and has one of the Sawyer extractor kits, within the first 15 minutes, if they use that kit, there has been some evidence that you might get some benefit from it.
The extractor kit, that is its name, the extractor. It is the very, very best kit that's on the market today for the treatment of snake bite. When you look at it, at first you think, oh my goodness, there's a big syringe, you know, and then where's the needle? Children see it that way, and so you want to make sure your children are aware that this does not hurt. I'm going to put it right here on my arm, and I'm going to press the activator for the suction, and we see it's a very powerful suction device. We can see how it's pulling the skin up inside. If I leave the suction bulb on there a couple of minutes, it will be moist, drawing moisture through the skin. That's how powerful it is. We put it on the right over each fang puncture and draw the poison out. The faster we do this, the more complete the first aid measures will be. But it must be applied quickly, and if you wait 3 hours, of course, then the suction is going to be very ineffective if there's any effectiveness at all.
We'll rejoin Bob Jenni as we go snake hunting for copperheads and diamondbacks right after this.
Our camera crews followed Bob Jenni last fall on a snake hunt east of Edmond as he took us on a search for copperheads.
Right in that area there, right under the edge. Lean back as far as you can and right there, right there. Oh, no, back, there we go. Now up just a little bit, there's a big crevice right underneath your foot there. There could be 50 to 75 snakes in a den this size. But right now, they're in the vicinity, and they may be under leaf piles, they may be out in the sun, taking a sun bath. They could be just in the entrance of the cavern, which we may not find with all the leaf debris. We have to move the leaves and find out exactly where the hole is now. The snakes can find them easy. We find it difficult because we're going more on sight, they're going more on scent and the feel of the temperatures of the area. The females return to the dens in August, early September, and there they give birth to their young. And that's the only care that the young receives. Just the fact that the mother goes back to the den and the young do not have to scour the countryside trying to find a den for winter hibernation.
With no luck finding any copperheads at that particular den site, Bob and his assistant Erica decided to try a different location, but just happened to find a surprise on the trail.
These leaves provide excellent protective coloration for the snake. Can we see it? Oh my, there we go. Oh boy. There. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Alternate light and dark brown saddle bands, the full length of the snake's body. And then of course they have the facial pits, the vertically elliptical pupils, and there's no other snake in Oklahoma that's comparable to them. We have a water snake that has bands on it, saddle bands, but they have many, many more, and they're rougher in appearance. But isn't that a handsome individual? And if a person walking by, well, they could be within a few yards of it and not even see the copperhead. And oftentimes they freeze in position to avoid detection. They may freeze on an open pathway, and people accept that as aggression. They're not aggressive snakes, they're just thinking that they're concealed and the people can't see them, even though they're on an open pathway. And they're usually found in the least disturbed areas of our environment. Look how that blends in. Even though it stands out, it's right on top, it still blends in with those leaves. But in the leaves, we see how they can just disappear. It's difficult to see this snake's entire body as a result of the post oak and the blackjack leaves that we see here.
Let's now go to western Oklahoma as Bob and his assistants look for diamondback rattlesnakes.
In these areas open like this, usually you don't find the snakes, but if you get into places where you have vegetation, where we see the sumac, and just a short distance down the way we see the creosote bush, and here's a nice diamondback rattlesnake right there. And right next to the den, it is ready to go back in. If we don't catch it right to begin with, it'll be back in underneath the ledge, back into its hibernation area. And there, it goes far enough back to where it would be a 51-degree temperature. Mean temperature, summer or winter, makes no difference. It'll be 51 degrees, and they go back there, and that's where they hibernate. And I'm going to flip this guy down, try to flip him down the way. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, there we go. Is he going down the hill there? All right. Try to come right down there on top of him. Rocks fall out from under me and fall right down on top of him. Don't want to do that. There we go. There we go. Nice sized diamondback. That's good. Very cooperative snake. We see that black forked tongue. In the roof of their mouth, they have two holes. And when they're detecting odor particles, they pick up odor with the forks of the tongue. When they pull the tongue back into their mouth, instead of pulling it into their lower jaw where it's usually kept, the forks of the tongue are placed into those two holes in the roof of the mouth. And there they detect and evaluate those odor particles. And the rattle Each time they shed their skin, they receive one new segment. They shed their skin an average of 3 times here in Oklahoma. And each time they shed their skin, one new segment. Then, complicating age telling, they break rattles, so we cannot tell the age by counting the rattles. We'll go on up around the bluff now and see if we can find this other den. Found anything, Erica? Right in this fragrant sumac ahead of us. The wind blowing the way it is, oftentimes they'll get in the brush in order to get out of the wind. Be more comfortable. Oh, yeah. Here we go, Sandra. All right. See if you can tap him on the head there. Very lightly in. See if we can get up here. Okay. There we go. Here he goes, Sandra. You got him. There's the snake. The rattlesnake, and it's hidden deep here in the brush. There we go. Looks like we're not the... There we go. 2 diamondback rattlesnakes. In order to feel comfortable in the outdoors, first we want to recognize the dangers we might encounter, which of course includes here in Oklahoma the 3 venomous snakes, the copperhead, the cottonmouth, the rattlesnake. Learn to identify those at a glance. Then understand their behavioral characteristics, how they respond to you and me. First we recognize them and we know what they're going to do. And we know what we have to do in order to be careful. We want to avoid injury, that way we can better appreciate the beauty, the mystery, and adventure that nature provides.
You know, there's so much to know about snakes in general, and I hope today maybe you've learned a little bit about Oklahoma's poisonous snakes. You know, just remember, they're not all out to get us. And actually, snakes are good for our environment. We'll see you somewhere new next time in Outdoor Oklahoma. So what makes rattlesnakes different than other kinds of snakes?
They don't really do much all the time.
They really don't do much? So do snakes, you know, some people are afraid of snakes. I guess you know that, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think they're afraid of snakes?
Because most of the time, sometimes they can give you venom.
What is venom?
Venom's that stuff that makes you sick.
What do you think causes people to be scared of snakes?
Because their mothers tell them to be scared of them. Just like I've told my grandchildren, you know, that's fine. But I'm really not scared of them. I've held them in my hands. I've had tarantulas walk up and down my arms. I'm really not scared of snakes.
So,
but I don't want one. If you're planning on giving me one, I don't want one.
I don't have
For a
one to give
present.
you, sorry.
I don't want to take care of them.